Okay, great. Hey, hello. Hello. Welcome, everyone. We will just wait for folks to come in. It's nice to see everyone. For folks that are just joining us, if you want to go ahead and put your name in the chat and introduce yourself, perhaps let us know what organization you are coming from, and maybe what your favorite springtime activity is that you're looking forward to. The sun is kind of peeking out where I am, but I know that we are all probably, hopefully, looking forward towards springtime. We'll wait just another moment or so. Hi, Marshall. Good to see you. Hi, Allie. Again, just let me know your name and what organization you're representing and what your favorite springtime activity is. Good to see many of you. Good to see your names. Thanks so much for being here today on this partially sunny Tuesday morning. Excellent.
I'm already seeing this theme with gardening. I'm a gardener too. I'm a perennial gardener. So maybe that's something we can do as a future webinar topic right now.
Maybe we can have a community building activity doing some gardening in Lansing.
Yeah.
That was definitely going to be my answer. That's great.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Fantastic. Wonderful. All right, well, without further ado, we will get going. My name is Audrey Whaling. I am your host today and the program manager for the Emerging Lansing 2030 District. I'm very excited to see all of you here. Thank you again so much for joining us. Slight bit of housekeeping, letting you all know this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted later this week on our YouTube channel, and as links are shared in the chat, those will also be shared in the show notes, so that if you need to refer back to something. Additionally, we should have some time towards the end for Q&A, but if not, my contact information is towards the end of this presentation, and I'll make sure that it gets shared in the chat. So if you have to duck out early or you need to contact me about something, please feel free to do so. That is part of my job. That is why I'm here to help support you in moving this along. Also, just a quick note, you may see the term MyGBC. So the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan is now MyGBC. So we are the same organization, new fancy look. So you are not in the wrong webinar, do not worry. So again, welcome. And thanks so much for being here. Moving into our agenda for today. We're going to talk a little bit about what a 2030 district is, why we're establishing one in Lansing, why this initiative is important, why members should join. I'm going to give you some specific examples about a 2030 district in action, how to enroll, and what is next. But before we do that, I do want to take a moment and appreciate our visionary supporters and partners in this work. We would not be here, this work would not be happening. I would certainly not be here without their support, and we're grateful that not only are they supporters of this, they are actually at the table and in conversations with us. So thank you. So what is a 2030 district? Some of you may or may not know, but this work actually came out of Architecture 2030 Challenge, which set goals to reduce emissions in the built environment by 2030, hence the 2030 name. And the focus is the built environment because this is where most of the emissions come from. And what this means for us is that it's a public-private partnership. That means building owners, business owners, community stakeholders, and others coming together and to focus around common goals. And those goals are included around reducing building energy use, reducing energy waste, reducing water consumption and waste, and reducing transportation emissions. And through this work, we are able to promote and develop a high-performing building district, which is what we're looking to establish in Lansing, that can then further promote economic growth and community vibrancy. And really, this is a community-wide effort. We are all working together, and our objective is to bring people to the table and into the conversation. So who joins the 2030 district? There are about 3 categories that we look at: property owners and managers, which is the group that I'm most specifically talking to today. However, this information is relevant for everyone, and everyone is welcome at the table. Community stakeholders, who are typically nonprofit organizations or local government entities, and professional stakeholders, who are groups that typically offer services like engineering or architecture services or otherwise. And really, as I mentioned, this is a community-wide effort. We are all working together towards common goals. It takes a little bit from everyone, so all are welcome. As I mentioned, this is a national movement. So the Architecture 2030 work happened, and they created a framework and set goals on a national level. And so we are able to take that and implement it on a local level. So it's really neat to see that this is a nationwide thing with 2 districts in Canada. We have 24 established districts across the nation. The first one began in Seattle in 2011. And now we are established to 24, soon to be 25, with Lansing coming on board. And that means that there are 619 million square feet committed to this initiative. That's quite a lot. We are fortunate enough to have 3 other districts established in Michigan. So we have our own mini Michigan 2030 network, which is really neat, including our sister cities of Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Grand Rapids. It's a nice opportunity for us to collaborate together, to work on an interstate level, help network, educate, collaborate, and uplift each other. It's also a great opportunity for statewide organizations to come together, should you want to be a statewide organization and get plugged into this work, or you are and are looking to further this work. Again, we are all focused around similar objectives to create a sustainable built environment through energy cost savings, energy efficiency, improving economic growth, all while reducing environmental impact. And so you might be wondering, why Lansing? So the Lansing 2030 district supports a lot of the work that the city of Lansing has already started to do. And if you think of us as sort of an extension of that and further support of that work, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Audrey Welch at the city of Lansing, to share more about the city of Lansing's perspective. Audrey, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Audrey, and thanks everybody for joining. So I'm Audrey Welch, the Sustainability Manager for the City of Lansing, and you can see my contact information there. If you'd like to reach out to me at any time, please feel free to do so. Next slide, please. So I kind of just wanted to start by grounding us in this conversation about, this is kind of the why that Lansing is hopeful that partnering with our community, engaging the community in this way with the 2030 district will be impactful. But I wanted to just start by saying that we are trying to practice what we preach as much as possible too, and started this work with a municipal climate action plan that pertains just to our city operations. And you can see a number of goals associated with that plan here. Our carbon neutrality goals, ambitious waste diversion goals, water reduction goals. We are really trying to look at all of our policies and practices to ensure that they are as sustainable as possible. And we also have goals associated with employee engagement. So we are trying to live out this work as well as encourage others in the community to do similar endeavors. So next slide, please. But I wanted to focus more today on our Sustainability Action Plan, we'll call it the SAP, which has a more community-wide focus. It's pretty comprehensive in nature, and it has these 6 key priority areas outlined within the plan. We have a chapter dedicated to materials management, and so this pertains to recycling and composting, developing a circular economy to try and keep materials out of landfills, conserving and protecting our water resources, sustainable land use. And you can see the highlighted issues here that kind of pertain more to the 2030 district work. So that's why they're highlighted. So we have a chapter focused on energy efficiency, renewable energy, and transportation and mobility as well. Next slide. So I wanted to share this very high level sort of visual for you. And that's because this kind of is some of the foundational work that got us to this point. So this is a visual of where emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, are coming from in the Lansing community. This was from our first GHG inventory that we did back in 2022 using 2019 baseline data. And really the point here is you can see some big chunks of the pie here that this work can potentially impact with commercial, industrial, residential energy, as well as transportation and mobility types of things. And there's a number of other strategies that involve other sectors that we're also pursuing, but we'll kind of focus on the building and transportation issues for this, for the purpose of today. Next slide. And so within our SAP, we have identified a kind of an interim science-based target for our GHG emissions of 59% reduction by 2030 with full carbon neutrality by 2050. And we commissioned an analysis of that GHG data that got us to this point here where you can see in the table where certain strategies are identified with their associated impacts. So this kind of gives you an idea of some of the identified actions that we're pursuing here at the city. Next slide, please. And here you can just see prioritized again some of the activities that we are pursuing, and the highlighted portions of commercial benchmarking and electrification are again more related to the 2030 district work. But those transportation goals are also very important. Our goals for solar and renewables and organics diversion and a number of other things are things that we are actively working on. But within the 2030 district, we really feel like we can make some significant impact by focusing on those highlighted issues you see here. Next slide. And I think this is my last one, so I'll just end by stating that within the plan, and if I didn't say so before, all of these plans and reports are available on our website. So if you do want to read it more thoroughly, I encourage you to go check it out. But within the SAP, there is that energy efficiency section that significantly calls upon us to reduce energy use citywide by way of measuring that so we can better manage it, specifically using benchmarking and encouraging others to do that as well. So I'll just end on that. That's our why. We have this work really grounded in some foundational work that we have done, and we feel like this is a really excellent way to make the impact in the Lansing community. And I think that's all for me, if I'm not mistaken, Audrey.
Thank you so much, Lori. Really appreciate working with you and all this work that we've had the opportunity to do together. As I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, we wouldn't be here without some of our visionary supporters, which includes Eagle. Lansing would not be here, but Eagle is a huge supporter of the 2030 district model across the state of Michigan as well. And so Cody Evans, the community programs coordinator, is going to share a little bit about that with us. Cody.
Awesome. Thank you, Audrey. Hi, everyone. My name is Cody Evans. Like Audrey said, I'm with the Michigan Department of the Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, and I serve as the Community Programs Coordinator within our Energy Services Unit and represent EGLE on the 2030 Districts Advisory Committee. So excited to be here. I plan on keeping it pretty brief, just highlighting some of the history around EGLE's involvement for the 2030 districts across the state and just EGLE's involvement in this work. So like I mentioned, EGLE's very excited to be a part of the, Lansing 2030 district. It's great to have another district, being established in the state and right here in Lansing. And like Audrey mentioned, EGLE has long supported and continues to support all of Michigan's districts in Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Washtenaw, and Detroit, as well as their missions. As with all the other districts, we feel that the goals of the Lansing 2030 district closely align with EGLE's vision of building and fostering thriving communities throughout the state, and more specifically, doing so through sustainable buildings, energy management, benchmarking efforts, that type of thing. And for EGLE, we aim to do this by meeting communities and organizations wherever they're at in their energy management journey, just starting out, maybe a little bit farther along, wherever they're at, and then providing them with resources, whether it's technical assistance or financial resources to help them, get to that next step and achieve their goals. So a lot of EGLE's programs, especially within our energy unit, are closely tied to the work of the 2030 districts, with the understanding that financial resources can be a big part of building decarbonization and benchmarking in those efforts. We offer grant resources and grant programs for things like energy workforce development, audits and assessments, energy efficiency upgrades, those types of things, and much more. And we'll be sure to share the link of our funding opportunities page that has all of our programs listed and the details for those, who's eligible, if they're open or not, those types of things. So again, just wanted to provide a quick overview of EGLE's relationship with the districts and their importance, and as well as some of the resources that EGLE offers to help support the work. I've got my contact information up there. If you want to connect, if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to chat. And again, just EGLE is excited to be a part of the initiative and looking forward to working collaboratively with the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cody. And I see there's a question in the chat. Lori, if you wouldn't mind dropping your contact information in the chat for us, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Cody. Again, we would not be here without the support of EGLE. So thank you so much. And thank you for your involvement in this conversation. Both Lori and Cody are part of a small group called the District Advisory Council, as well as my next guest. The District Advisory Council is a small group of individuals that are representing organizations based in the Lansing area that help really shape the district and guide the district's work. So we meet on a monthly basis and we work together to set priorities, work on engagement opportunities, look for obstacles, set the frame, et cetera. And so we're just very excited. And this is a dedicated group of people, and they've been working really hard to deliver Lansing to you. And so with that, I will introduce our next guest, also part of the District Advisory Council, Michael Hoffland from University of Michigan Health Sparrow, to share about their involvement in the district.
Thank you, Audrey. So hello, I'm Michael Hoffland. I'm the Regional Director for Maintenance and Facilities at Sparrow. And that's a really fancy way of saying that I take care of the built environment and the infrastructure for our main hospital here on Michigan Avenue, as well as about 40 other buildings throughout the Lansing community. So what I wanted to actually start out today to talk about is really our motivation or our why behind joining this and why we think there's some value. And I want to do that by sharing with you a little bit about our organizational goals. And these are goals that are the same ones we have in Ann Arbor, related, the same ones we have out here for Sparrow, because we're all one health system business. And perhaps that if you see that what our goals are and how we're applying these to Lansing 2030, maybe one or two or maybe more of these will apply to you and be like, oh, that kind of makes sense. So basically, we have a strategic framework that we call BASE. And that's basically defined as you see in bold text, belonging and inclusion, access, safety, and experience. And there's a lot of other things that go into these strategic framework. But ultimately, we're looking, if you look at the three bubbles, we're looking at zero emissions, zero harm, and zero waste. Okay. So how those fit into those strategic priorities? When you think of belonging and inclusion, I mean, again, we have interest in terms of belonging and inclusion when we work with our employees, with our caregivers, in terms of process we have so people have a voice, but also the feedback we sometimes get is that climate is a top concern and value for our team members. So that is one of the ways that by addressing or being active in seeking ways to reduce climate change, we're showing that we're listening to our employees as well. In terms of access, zero emissions. So virtual care, COVID had brought about this really very good change in being able to provide remote care, care at home, opportunities for seeing a physician remotely or a nurse practitioner or someone remotely, actually reducing emissions so people don't have to travel in, actually more efficient with appointments. So again, this is a way to reduce emissions. It's also actually improving the patient experience too, because many of you probably have had the experience. Maybe you've taken a loved one or you yourself have tried to go to some of the larger hospitals in the areas. And sometimes just the wayfinding or getting there can be quite a challenge. So actually just by making virtual care an option or more prevalent, more available for our customers and visitors, it's just helping reduce emissions. We also look down to safety then. We're looking for ultimately our goal in a health system is because we exist to serve the patients in the community. And our goal is zero harm. And that's through our chemical usage, through the food we serve, to reducing emissions, climate impacts, and that's actually without ignoring patient safety and infection prevention measures. So again, safety is part of the zero harm goal as well. And then zero waste. A lot of sustainability is about what you do with your waste. And, our team members are very active in sharing that waste is something that's important to them, whether it be time, energy, and resources. And as we work on those as part of our zero waste program, it actually leads to less burnout, more savings in terms of productivity, as well as diverting things instead of going to the waste stream. We're actually keeping them within the facility or finding other ways to reuse products as well too. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. So I thought I'd share with you actually some of the initiatives we are doing both here in Lansing as well as in the Ann Arbor and our various hospital areas, just so you can kind of have a glimpse of some of the things that we're participating in. And some of these are done in Ann Arbor, some of them are done here in Lansing as well too. But these are all things that we're able to pretty much do here right now as well too, because we're looking at sustainability from an enterprise level, not just here in Lansing or in Ann Arbor. We're actually looking at throughout all Michigan medicine properties and infrastructure. So energy conservation, really the first thing is, LED lighting is a very, there's a little bit of cost to that, but usually the paybacks on these, and there are incentives out there, even with some of the power companies, to actually move to LED lighting just to reduce energy consumption. LEED Platinum, which we mentioned here in the pavilion, that is something related to a building we're building in Ann Arbor right now. We're also planning some buildings here in the Lansing as well. And if you're not familiar with LEED is basically using cutting edge building technologies and strategies for energy efficiency, lower water usage, reducing greenhouse gases. So this is actually something that it does require you to put some investment in, but it's generally for newer buildings. But you can also go back and retro commission older buildings to meet LEED certifications, I believe. So it's again focused on like lowering that environmental impact of your building. This is an interesting that I always thought was kind of entertaining when I work with a colleague out of our sustainability group, and he shares with me these, and I was like, printer reduction. What? Printer reduction? It's like there's little things you can do here and there that can actually reduce your carbon footprint and waste. And believe it or not, printers significantly contribute to or to overall impacts by decreasing paper consumption, ink usage, energy consumption. So if you're printing less or doing things more electronically, like something we adopted, something as simply as electronic routing for signatures within our organizations. I mean, how many? Even in our organization, which is very big, it took a very long time to move off of paper documents, your route for signatures and things you got to print. So little small baby steps like that can really make an impact over time. And the bigger the organization you have, believe it or not, the less printers you have. I mean, we got a couple thousand. It can actually reduce our impact. Water conservation, again, part of the LEED Platinum certifications. And there's also gold and silver and other LEED certifications you can pursue as well too, which have a little less stringent requirements, but all towards that sustainability goal. Clinical sustainability. So obviously hospital, one of the things we deal with is anesthetic gases. And believe it or not, some anesthetic gases are a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So like there's one called bisflurane, and it's one of the ones that it's pretty potent gas actually, but it's used for anesthesia. So we're looking at ways that we can actually recover that we can actually go to intravenous anesthesias versus that. So if you work in gases, there's something right there you can look at as well too. Are there ways with just the materials you use on a day-to-day basis? Landfill avoidance. Again, we have a lot of medical plastics recycling, so we're looking for things that we can actually, versus sending to landfills, that we can put into a recycling program, and also reprocessing. We have a lot of devices that are used through surgical procedures, and they could go to waste, or we can work with the vendor and say, well, why don't you give us something we can reprocess through a sterilization process and clean it. So we're actually a lot of times working with our suppliers, and I'll talk about this in a couple other bullet points further down, where sometimes even just talking to our suppliers, we can tell them about our desire to be more sustainability conscious, and we can work up options for different types of materials or devices we use in our care or with our our services. Transportation, I mentioned earlier, virtual care, reducing the emissions by finding for ways we can deliver our services to people at home versus having them come here and use their vehicles. Vehicle electrification, going for some of our fleet vehicles. Again, we're not asking our employees to all do this, but it's obviously a personal choice. But wherever we have vehicles that we use for our maintenance staff or delivery vehicles or lab vehicles, I guess I was a little bit of a slow adopter or realizing this because I had always heard that rumor, oh, but the electrified cars cost more in the production process than they, for creating the batteries and all. But if you look at the data overall, until I actually did the data research myself, if you look at the overall lifespan of electrified car versus a gas-powered car, it's not the same. If you're looking just at the production, you're right. There's probably a little bit more on the car side, on the electric vehicle side. But if you look over the life of the vehicle, it's actually considerably higher for gas vehicles, at least what I'd found. Supplier alignment, again, we're working with our vendors, how that they provide packaging to us, how often they do deliveries, and SC means supply chain to us. So we're looking at our protocols, how we work with our suppliers. Can they recycle some of the materials they give to us, from pallets to cardboard? And as well as the last thing, which is metric tools for Scope 3. So if you're not very familiar with Scope 3 is dealing with, again, a little bit on the supplier side. This is a little bit redundant to the one above, but this is for how do we work on the emissions with the companies that we work with. So it's not a result of our direct activities. It's ones that are controlled by our suppliers, up the value chains or the supply chain. So how do we use products, dispose of products from our suppliers? So again, just some of the things we're doing high level here at Sparrow. And if you could go to the next slide. And so lastly, this circles back to our goal of really this triple bottom line, or our aim is people, planet, and prosperity. So, when we think of planet, protecting natural systems and biodiversity, we need the environment to thrive in order to survive. It's part of our goals, part of our sustainability goal. And also, it's about the people. I mean, we get feedback from our staff as well as our team members that, sustainability improves the health and well-being of our patient visitors, from the virtual care to our waste diversion, to our team members, to our communities, to the example we can set for those out in the community, such as you that are considering Lansing 2030 today. And lastly, just about prosperity. As we look, and what we're excited about this is partnering and actually sharing ideas with you that we've done, and also maybe ideas you have, is that, if it's not economically sustainable, it's going to be hard to do long term. So I think when we have a really large group of people thinking about the things we can do to improve sustainability, reduce emissions, reduce our carbon footprint, we're all kind of sharing that information together and we're all benefit. So, we're trying to get the message out there that putting the value on intangibles like health and well-being and the environmental services and the environment services. So, yep, that's it. So thanks.
My goodness, thank you so much, Michael. I feel like every time I have a conversation with someone, I learn something new and fantastic. So I really appreciate all of the work that University of Michigan Health Sparrow is doing. So thank you.
You got it.
So for everyone here, we've learned a little bit about the background of a 2030 district, why it's important, and now we want to talk about why members should join. So some high-level things to think about. We want to encourage members to be able to take advantage of different programs and incentives that exist, or programs and resources. Perhaps they are resources that you may not know about, or perhaps they're programs that are going to be created through the 2030 district. We've got some ideas and we're looking forward to that. It's also an opportunity to reduce energy use, reduce costs, reduce operating costs, be able to improve resiliency of properties, and improve the return on investment as well. As we discussed, the City of Lansing and the State of Michigan have goals, and this will help, being a member of the 2030 district will help support those goals. There's also some research out there to show that entrants into the workforce, new entrants into the workforce, are interested in companies that have more green or sustainable initiatives. So it's an opportunity to highlight that in the work that you do and perhaps attract new talent. For those that are interested, we do want to uplift the different work and progress that people are making. Some folks like to talk about it, some folks don't. That's okay, whatever your preference is. But as I mentioned, every time I talk to someone, I hear something new and cool that's happening, and we would really like the opportunity to uplift and share with your peers the leadership that's happening in the community. Another thing to consider about joining the Lansing 2030 district is you will gain consideration in a program called the Battle of the Buildings. It is an annual statewide competition where buildings in different categories are pitted against each other, as you will, and whoever is the biggest loser of energy is awarded on an annual basis at our Michigan Energy Summit spring gathering. And it's a really fun opportunity to, compete against your peers. So I've shared a little bit about why maybe you should join. This is a quick high-level summary of some benefits, but I think the key thing to think about here is that I am here to support you. I'm here to help get you what you need and get you where you need to go. And so I can do that through getting you connected to different resources and tools, potentially connecting you with an expert. We have an educational webinar coming up in March that's going to be focused around rebates, incentives, and potential program funding. So if that's something that you're interested in, please join us as a member, and then you'll be able to attend that webinar. Similar to that, if you have an expert skill set or an experience or a cool project that you have worked on that would be valuable to the community, perhaps we can feature you in an educational moment or a webinar or another engagement opportunity. We really want to help create that peer-to-peer learning and the sharing within the community. Thinking about that, if you consider that we are a 2030 district, but we're a network, right? So if we think about the 2030 district as in the middle, and the different tools and resources and experts and case studies are sort of around the outside, we like to be the hub in the center of that wheel to connect everyone. We're really trying to create a network here. And then speaking to energy benchmarking, you can't reduce what you haven't measured yet. So perhaps you're somewhere in that journey. Perhaps you're not sure where to start. That is where we come in. It can help get you started, get you connected with tools, get you connected with potential opportunities to help move your energy measurement forward. And I know it might sound daunting, but let's have a conversation and we can help get you there. And certainly not the last benefit, but the last one I'm going to mention are, as I referred to earlier, sharing of the success stories. Again, there's so much amazing work that's happening within the community itself. We'd really like to spotlight some of that and help uplift those community members who are interested in doing so, to share all of the neat work that's going on, that's happening. There's a lot of really cool energy, no pun intended, in this direction, and we would like to spotlight that. And so thinking about that in general, I want to show you, zero in a little bit on specific examples of a 2030 district in action. So we're going to zoom in for a moment on the Baxter Community Center in Grand Rapids. They are a 2030 district member, and through the network, they were able to take advantage of and get support with the Energy Assistance Program. They were able to get connected to local resources through the network to do an energy audit. And in that energy audit, they were able to take that opportunity and create an energy scavenger hunt for some of their youth. And so there was an educational component to that as well. So not only were they able to measure energy use, identify potential cost savings, they were also able to create an educational component of that as well. They had also set up some mentorship opportunities as well. So really it was a nice holistic approach to this work. Zooming in on another aspect, resources that can be available. This is a specific example of a resource that was developed in the Grand Rapids 2030 district. Again, the professional partners group came together to create an energy and carbon guidebook. So this is a really amazing piece of information that's got a whole bunch of information about energy assessments, energy audits, what kind of energy audits, how would I even go about starting, what's low level, what's high level, what resources exist to help move this forward, what funding opportunities might be there, what different organizations offer different tools. And so it's a packed full of really great information for the Grand Rapids area. And this was created by members for members. So there's an opportunity for us to pursue something like this in Lansing. I think there's some already really great information out there. So this is something that members can work on, and once it's complete, members can use. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, the 2030 districts are a network across the nation. So there are 24 districts, including 2 in Canada, that all have their own pieces of education and engagement opportunities, and you as members will have access to many of those. So for example, if you would like to learn more about heat pumps, Toronto is all about heat pumps all the time, and so you can probably learn quite a bit about heat pumps should that be of interest to you. Last year, Burlington, Virginia did a webinar on geothermal, which could be of interest to you as well. Seattle right now is looking into stormwater technology. So there's just so much information available to you as members, and we want to really help connect you with that. As I've said a couple of times, this is really a community. This is really a group of sharing, and we're all working together to move forward. So hopefully by this point you are saying to yourself, okay, Audrey, I am ready, sign me up. So we would love to have you sign up for the 2030 district. There should be a link available in the chat, or there will be a QR code shortly in a couple of slides that you can just click and it'll take you to the sign up page. We need a little bit of information about your building and business, and then we can set up a conversation with yours truly to talk about where you're at, what you're looking for, how I can help you. And if you're at a place where you're still not quite sure, maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or maybe you're feeling like I don't even know where to go forward, let's grab 20 minutes and we can talk through it and we can get you on your way. From there, we'll look at, do you want to start, or do you need to progress on measuring your energy use? What kind of tools or resources do you need? Do you need to talk to an expert? Do you need a case study reference? Are you looking to participate in our upcoming events? Do you have something you'd like to offer to the community? These are all benefits, again, of the membership. And so we want to get you signed up in order for you to access those. And of course, we would like folks to sign up as soon as possible, but we would really love building owners to engage with us by May of this year. Right now, we are at 5.2 million square feet, I believe, with the District Advisory Council coming to the table and getting their buildings enrolled. Thank you so much all for that hard work. And so we're at 5 million, and we're tracking towards the goal of 10 million square feet by May 2025. Why May? Because we are officially establishing the district in May. There's going to be a celebration and a press conference at the City of Lansing with Mayor Andy Shore to share the great work that we're all doing and announce the district is formally established. So we invite you to help us get to that 10 million square feet. And then also, we'll get to start to accessing the resources and the benefits as part of the 2030 district as soon as you sign up. So I have done a lot of talking. This is my contact information and the QR code that will take you to sign up for the 2030 district. We have a couple of minutes for questions, but I did also want to say that wherever you are in the work that you're doing, if you have goals, if you don't have goals, if you have small goals, if you have big goals, it doesn't matter. If you're just looking to engage with resources, if you're looking to connect with other members, like wherever you are at, we would like to invite you in. This is open for everyone who's interested. And don't be discouraged if maybe you're not sure where to start, or you don't feel like you have big goals. That's okay. There's a place for everyone, and we would love to have you. Lastly, I just want to thank again our collaborators. We would not be here again without the fantastic support of BWL Eagle and Consumers Energy, and then our partnership with the City of Lansing. We're just really grateful for all of the time that we've worked together so far, and happy to have everyone. And this last slide is just available with my contact information and an appointment calendar link. It'll be available in the show notes and when we're no longer in this session. And so with that, I will stop sharing and open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Audrey, there is one question already in Q&A that I noticed here. I don't know if you're able to see that regarding the BWL's potential ability to automate the data into Energy Star. I don't know if we have anybody from BWL on the line right now.
So I don't know that we do. I know that that is a conversation that is up for discussion. That's a great question, Michael. I know it's a conversation that's in discussion. I'm not entirely sure where they're at right now, but I do know that, at least from my conversations with BWL, it seems like their process is a little bit more straightforward than some of the other utilities have experienced. But we'll certainly keep that in mind and ask that as a follow-up question for sure. And I see that Tom Stanton has his hand raised. Tom, are you able to type your question into the Q&A? Or into the chat? Okay, Tom, here we go. I'd like to ask about interest areas. No audio, correct. Is it possible for you to type your question into the chat?
Well, I might be able to help with that, Audrey. I think a little further up in the chat, maybe he wrote, it would be great if we could ask participants what their most important targets are for action, so that we could be sharing in-depth information about best practices. Maybe save you some typing there, Tom. But I think that's what you were aiming at, correct?
Thank you so much for highlighting that.
Yeah.
Whether everyone already has specific ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think at least for for this group, we are looking for input from the 2030 members to figure out kind of the directions that we're going. So I do know we are also looking at the different interest groups, and we might be able to, we are hoping to form best practice groups for going forward. So that could be an area, Tom, where we would love to have you engage. Allie asked a great question. How do you know what type of stakeholder you are for the district? So if you visit our Lansing 2030 page, there is a section that says why join. And if you are unclear about what kind of stakeholder you are, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a little quiz that I think is 4 or 5 questions that'll help direct you where to go. Marshall, I see your question. I see Grand Rapids 2030 carbon study. Will Lansing have that study? Are you referring to the GHG survey? Is that what you were referring to? Yes. Lori, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I am not sure exactly what it is in reference to. Is it, Marshall, are you asking about Lansing's GHG inventory or something that the district might take on? I'm not sure I understand.
The district.
Oh, the district might take on. So I'm not sure if maybe what you're asking is like for a region-wide inventory or something like that. It's not something that we have discussed, but something that we could potentially discuss. And I think there's a lot of opportunity now to brainstorm out what might work best for this area.
And I do know that the Lansing did a GHG survey, and they're actually doing another one again. And the district sits adjacently in those conversations as far as where things are at. And so once that's completed, there might be an opportunity to further expand upon it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have mentioned that. We are in the middle of conducting our second inventory and will be probably completed by sometime this spring, April, May, I would think at the latest. And we'll definitely share that out, as Audrey indicated, with the district and see if we can compare that information to our previous inventory and utilize it for planning and forecasting.
Great question. Thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I really appreciate everyone's time today. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is wonderful. So just once again, thank you all for being here. This information, this recording, the slides, and all of the links will be available on our YouTube. That's the USGBC/MyGBC's YouTube channel a little bit later this week. If you know someone who is not able to attend, please share this with them. Have them contact me directly. We're just very excited to have everybody engaged and here today. And again, my metaphorical door is always open. I have said that so many times to the District Advisory Council. They're probably sick of hearing it, but really, really, my role is here to support you. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you, Allie, for sharing the link in the chat for my GBC and a number of the other links. And so with that, I will thank you all for being here. Thank you, our speakers, Michael, Cody, and Lori. Such a pleasure to work with you. So appreciate your contributions to this initiative. And we'll give you 15 minutes back in your day. And I will hang around for a little while longer in case anybody wants to ask additional questions. So thank you, everyone. Stop.